Kevin Michael Schmitz here. I'm a celebrity fashion advertising photographer. I've spent my entire career mastering lighting, from shooting on location to studio photography, shooting advertising campaigns for $200,000 clients, as well as I've published over 200 magazine editorials all over the world, here in the United States, as well as in Europe, Australia, all over the world. So I've had the opportunity to tell a lot of photographic stories and be able to master all aspects of lighting in any possible situation. Now, today we're going to be talking all about mastering your photographic lighting. And this is something that's always been passionate for me because I've been the director of the Photography Workshop series for over 12 years. And we actually founded it as the Location Lighting Photography Workshop series was our original name, because we're all about lighting. We're all about mastering that epic lighting. And that's where we kind of all started from, and that's where our grassroots are. So I want to make sure that you guys realize that lighting, it's something that everybody needs to know. Even if you don't use high-end lights on location, say if you're shooting portraits or weddings or headshots and you're keeping it simple with natural light, we still use lighting on all productions because that's essentially what photography is. It is lighting. It's all about mastering that light, whether it's natural or whether we're manipulating the natural light for a certain situation to create those epic moments. So I think it's important to be able to understand what some of the critical components and the basis is of how we construct a lighting set, how we create these moments. How are we making all of this magic happen? Because a lot of times, you know, we see an image and we're totally mystified by it, but we don't really know how it was made, how it was created. And today, I'm going to be unveiling some of the secret sauce of how we actually created some of these images. What made them so masterful, and how we're able to light it and how we're able to create a scene, whether we're in studio in a completely controlled environment or whether we're outside on location, which to me, that's something that I am absolutely in love with, is shooting location lit scenes. To me, that's where the real magic happens. Now, we just came back from shooting high fashion editorial in New York, both in studio at a high-end, actually a couple different high-end studios where we're shooting in two massive studios, and we're shooting simultaneously with two productions going on with sophisticated lighting sets, as well as on location. And today we're going to go in depth and we're going to showcase some of the content that we shot and deconstruct some of the lighting scenarios and how we're able to get there. Now, this is a scene in which this was shot by Hans J. Paul, one of our amazing fashion and lifestyle photographers that has attended our workshops. He's been to about 11 workshops over the last year and a half. And Hans has developed his content to such a high echelon that he's able to create iconic images just like this. And I know you guys have all seen this image because it's the cover of all of the marketing of what we did for this webinar. But essentially what I love about this is that Hans was able to create a moment, art direct this scene, light it, allow it to unfold, and then capture it. Now we're incorporating studio lights outside on location. And what I love about this, and what's a great example of this, is that we're shooting a scene that's on top of a rooftop, and we're mixing the natural light as a really important hair light here, along with key lights using strobes. Now we're shooting with the ProPhoto 8A, and we're shooting with beauty dishes, with white beauty dish, as well as 7-inch reflectors. And the way in which we lit this is a scene in which we kept the lighting off to the right side of the model, so off to camera right, shooting in with one light hitting the model on her key, on her face, and making it pop as she's stepping, making sure that there's no blur, there's no motion blur, because there's a lot of movement, so we have a fairly fast shutter speed. You know, I think that we're generally shooting at about 200th of a second, fast enough to be able to accommodate the strobes, which we can actually go a little bit faster with that lighting setup, but not all strobes can do high-speed sync. But we're also incorporating a giant 8x8 foot silver bounce that we're able to bounce and pound light back into the models So we were able to capture all that amazing light and the movement. So as they move, we were able to have them lit throughout the lighting, throughout their movement, and then flash strobe to capture it, and then also capturing that amazing rim light and hair light behind their heads. Now, this is something that, it takes a lot of planning to do because, of course, this is a rooftop in New York City. And we have this amazing cityscape behind us. And it's complex to shoot a scene like this just because we had to clear the space, making sure that, we have, it's safe, making sure that the models have enough room to maneuver and to move, but then also having our lighting close enough to the model. Generally, I have our lights between about 5 feet to 7 feet from the model, so it's not too close, not too far away to fall off. And if needed, I might even have assistants walk alongside them with the giant bounce in hand and moving it in and out. But in this case, we had it clamped down on giant combo stands on rollers, and then we also shooting with utilizing the giant bounce with clamps, Madalini clamps, clamped to the combo stands, and then also using the 8A, utilizing the Pro Photo Beauty Dish. Now, a scene like that, to me, is what we call an iconic image. And that's what we're going for. We're going for images that really just pop, make the viewer really excited, make the viewer be like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? This is incredible. This is amazing. What is going on here? I feel like this is an image that's straight out of Vogue. And that's essentially what we're trying to get, is images that are totally at the highest level of your potential. And in New York, we created just that. And I'll showcase a few others. So, here's another image. This was shot on the rooftop by Hans as well. And these images, by the way, the best of the best images shot by all the photographers that attended this amazing New York fashion experience. We're going to be submitting them to Cool America Magazine for final publication. In fact, the owner of Cool America Magazine was actually on set with us and reviewed our photographer's portfolio, was really excited, and had authorized, hey, send me these images. I want to publish some editorial stories. So we're going to be sending the best of the best in from everybody's images. An image like this, also very complex. I generally like to shoot with a lot of rim light, meaning light from behind the head, and I utilize a 7-inch reflector on a Pro Photo head, oftentimes where I use a C-stand with an arm to arm the light in so that it's then coming back and hitting the back of the model's head and creating a little bit more of a dynamic scene. But in this case, there's no place to put it because what do we have behind your head? We have the city of New York, right? So what we did is we utilized the sun as the rim, and then we used a beauty dish as the key. And I believe on this scene, we actually had a beauty dish on top of a beauty dish. So 2 beauty dishes, one about 3 feet above her, and then another one about 3 feet below that beauty dish. So that way we're lighting her face, and then we're also lighting the dress. And the dress, the way we actually had her standing on top of a table, and it makes her look so tall and huge because it gives that aesthetic that she's towering above the city. But I love this kind of light, and I also love this incredible Russian top fashion model because it just really takes her face and makes it just crisp, sharp, spectacular, and really makes her pop. I absolutely love this image from Hans. Absolutely breathtaking, shooting on top of the rooftop, and also exposing so that the background, we have all of the sky in the background. And this is the magic of fashion photography, is that, we have certain things that I want to actually touch on today. Remember, the only things that are affecting the strobes when you're using flash strobes are going to be the power and intensity of the light, the distance of the light from the model, as well as the modifier that you put over the light. So say it's a beauty dish, a 7-inch reflector, a softbox, an octabox. They all have a different amount of diffusion and reduction of the intensity of the light. So for instance, a 7-inch reflector is just a bare bulb head with essentially a very, very small parabola around it, and it creates a really harsh light. Whereas a beauty dish, it's hitting a disc going back into the parabola and coming back out, and it's what you get here. And that's, I would say, one of the best lights for fashion. And then what we're doing is using something called a giant octabox, oftentimes where we have like a 6 or 7 or 8 foot octabank, and that's also having a little bit more diffusion because it's hitting a large, usually like a 3/4 stop or full stop diffusion, and then it's diffusing it, and it's also creating, it's a larger parabola, so it's diffusing it over a larger area, and then also it's going through fabric, so it's reducing the light. The other thing that's going to be, of course, reducing the light is going to be your aperture. So if you're shooting, you know, in this scene, we're shooting almost everything at about an f/16. And I wanted to capture a lot of depth in this image. I also wanted to make sure that when we were having models move, that we're capturing everything razor sharp. And I also love having the city sharp in the background. But if you stop down to say f11 or f8 or f6, what's going to happen is you're going to be also affecting the strobes. Your ISO is also going to affect the brightness of the strobe on the model. So from your ISO to the aperture, to the distance of the light, to the intensity of the light, to the modifier on the light, those are all things that are going to be affecting your strobe situation in location lighting. But the one thing that's not is, of all things, it's your shutter speed. And a lot of photographers, you know this, but there's many photographers that are completely unaware that your shutter speed doesn't affect your strobes whatsoever. And this is something that's really important to realize, because when you're incorporating a different shutter speed, I could be shooting this at 1 full second or 1/200th of a second, and it's not going to make any difference to the strobes whatsoever, because the strobe is just a really fast, bright flash strobe onto the model, and it's just going to light it for that split second. So it's not going to affect your shutter speed. Your shutter speed is not going to affect your lighting, which I think is really important. It's something to really remember when you're shooting a fashion scene, is that your shutter speed can be independently adjusted. So oftentimes in the beauty and the magic of fashion photography, we're utilizing that, and we're creating scenes in which we can stop down and create amazing images, even including the sky, when normally it might blow out, but we're able to capture that. There's another image shot on the rooftop, and it really showcases the garments. It really shows the amazing dresses in the background, and I love that. I love seeing a lot of movement, especially when we have big flowy dresses. It is so much fun to incorporate in a scene like this. And with a flash strobe, we're able to light around the dress and essentially make it pop even more. Which is, something that if you're working with a fashion designer, you definitely want to make sure that you're going to make the garment pop, because that's the product, right? The product is what you're selling. And if you're a fashion photographer, that's what you're going to be selling, is going to be the dress, the outfit. Or if you're shooting lifestyle advertising, maybe it's a product, you're shooting a Pepsi can or Coca-Cola can or something like that. So just remember what it is you're shooting, because a lot of times photographers forget and they think that it's just about the scene or it's just about the model or something. But you got to remember, it's also about the product that you're selling. That's really, really important. And oftentimes, if it's fashion, you got to remember that it's the dress. So the dress has to look amazing, right? So these dresses look incredible here. They look absolutely beautiful. And we want to make sure that they get spread out, they're flowy in the wind, and we can create moments that really showcase the energy and the lightness and the brightness of what that garment has to offer. Very, very, very important. So some strategies that I incorporate with lighting is using some of this cross-lit scenario. You guys are going to see this quite a bit as kind of a theme throughout a lot of the images you're going to see today, but you see the beautiful cross-lit three-dimensional feel on their faces. It's all because they're backlit by the sun and then strobed, and I had 2 strobes here side by side, making sure that each model is going to be lit independently. And that way, they are both lit perfectly, rather than one model being lit and the other model not being lit. One of the challenges, though, and one of the things that a lot of my photographers that I coach run into, is that they often, when they're shooting a set like this, they're having the model look back and forth and move all around, which sounds great and all, but it's not with the lighting. Because what happens is, and this happened a million times throughout this production in New York, a lot of my photographers shot incredible content, but as soon as they made the model face the other direction away from the lights, now we have problems with shadows. Now we have all kinds of issues that we have to deal with in post-production. This image is one of those examples. The model on camera left is amazing, and the lighting looks spectacular on her face. You have a little bit of that Rembrandt lighting, and I love the three-dimensional feel. But the model on the right, we have some really harsh shadows. because of the direction and angle of her face. So in this circumstance, you've got to be very careful of all the angles of the faces, making sure that the models are facing into the light. That's extremely important, always facing into the light. And if they are facing the other direction, then we need to throw another light in there, or make sure that they're angled into the direction of the other light. So in this circumstance, the girl on camera right, I would probably have her facing a little bit more into the sun, which is more back the other direction, or turn more towards the strobe light. But caught in between, you see a little bit of harshness on her face. So those are things that I want to avoid. Still, stunning image, really easy to fix in post-production though, either way. So it's not that big of a deal. But I absolutely love, something like this because it is a spectacular image and it's completely over the top as far as the lighting overall. And also as far as the storytelling, because that's essentially what we're doing as fashion photographers. We're telling a lot of stories. And Hans, I'm going to bring him on as our first panelist, and he's actually going to be broadcasting live from Germany, which is kind of exciting. So it's going to be super late night right there in Germany. It's going to be like 1 a.m. But I still, I want Hans to come on and talk a little bit about some of the images, some of the incredibleness that he shot, and and why the lighting really made these images sing. Because I think that becomes a really important facet of shooting fashion. It's lighting, it's storytelling, it's creating moments that just feel like I want to engage. I want to be a part of the scene with the talent. I want to get involved and just create absolute magic. Now, I want to show another little scene that I love. Now, this is at another location. We shot at this multi-million-dollar, $10 million estate in Long Island, and we shot with owls, which was amazing. And our production coordinator and photographic consultant, Priscilla Evans, actually brought in this incredible falconer that brought in falcons and hawks and eagles and owls. And the photographers were completely surprised and had no idea. And they show up and we incorporated these amazing owls and eagles and such with the models and created these amazing moments. But of course, very challenging to light. So I have to light the scene, both the model and the owl, which is kind of a challenge. And of course, this is late in the day. So this is at the end of the day. So in this circumstance, I think we used a giant bounce, and we used a giant reflective bounce and captured a little bit of light, bouncing back into the model and the owl. We also shot scenes of this with strobes, and we kind of mixed it up, some with strobes, some with bounce, some with both. But oftentimes, I do like to incorporate, especially on location, the mix between strobes and natural light, because I feel like that's some of the strongest lighting is when you can create a mix of both. It's absolutely breathtaking when you can create content like that. Now, also, of course, we're going to be in studio. And when I bring Hans on, I want him to talk a little bit about this because, he shot some really incredible in-studio sequences with our amazing top models here. And I loved what he did because shooting in studio, you want to create something that is lit really well because that's all you have to work with. You don't have a background. You don't have anything that is, unique and interesting. You just have white or black or gray. So it's not that interesting. So we have to make it interesting. And what do we do to make it interesting? We've got to have amazing lighting. You've got to have incredible models. You've got to have world-class styling. It has to all come alive. All those details lead up to having absolute perfection and creating these amazing moments. And this was actually all on, I believe, day one of the workshop, which is also what we consider our essential day, where we brought in the owner of Cool America magazine, and then we shot in studio. And we had actually 2 studios side by side that we were shooting, and we shot with this incredible top model, Adelina, who's this world-class top fashion model. And by the way, I believe these are all straight out of camera, unretouched, just fresh images. And they were styled so well and so over the top, there's really not much that even needs to be done. But they're breathtaking. We also have the ability to make it really dramatic with black and white, and also color, but creating scenes like this where we're lighting it from slightly above. So we had a beauty dish on a C-stand on an arm coming over slightly to the right and from above coming down on the model's face, creating these amazing moments. And I love it when you light something like this we have, and you can even see in this scene, because he actually has a rim light in the background because he wanted that for creative effect. But generally, obviously, we don't have the lights in the scene, but we have a rim light with a 7-inch reflector behind her head off to camera left. And then we have the sandwich light with this beautiful beauty dish from slightly off camera to the right and above. And it was amazing. We shot both video and stills on this, and it was absolutely mesmerizing. But creating moments to also make sure the model looks tall. And this can become a challenge because, you know what, when a model comes in, you know, regardless of whether they're, you know, they're tall or they're, you know, they're short or whatever, we want to make sure that they are powering and look like an Amazon. So in this case, you know, this model was actually not as tall as the other models, but we made her look tall by the camera angle and also by the lighting. And I feel like this really was effective. It was absolutely beautiful. Now, Hans, I would love for you to jump on real quick, and I'd love to ask you questions about these images.
Hi.
Hey, Hans, and you're joining us from Germany, right?
Yeah, right. It's 1:30 a.m. in the morning, but I have a jet lag. No problem.
Oh man, well, it's so good to see you, man. Well, tell me a little bit about, you know, shooting in studio and maybe kind of what the mode was with the lighting and kind of walk me through some of this, Hans.
Yeah, shooting in a studio. I love shooting in a studio, and by myself, I try to figure out a lot of light settings by myself. Most time with a moniker, only with a head or with a full body moniker, and try to light it out. And studio shooting is, I think, it's one of the most competitive things for a photographer. Yeah, so to light the face in the right way, and although the complete body, and if you don't direct the models in the right way, they move away from the light, and you lose light, or so you have to give them really directions what they have to do in studio. And although you have to figure out if the light is it too strong on a face, or is it the right way. I don't like to retouch or so much in my images. I want to get the shot in the camera with the JPEGs, and these are all JPEGs. And you see, especially with this image over there, that you have a little bit too much light on the right side. It's a little bit too bright on the right side, but this is easy to retouch. Yeah, if you overexpose or have really too much light in the face, you can't retouch the image anymore. It doesn't look good. Yeah, but these models were absolutely super professional. Their fashion and their clothes was so amazing. It was a lot of fun shooting these models, because they were professional. They listened to what the photographer says to him, and say what directions they should go, which movements they should do, and it was amazing. Studio was. I love studio, but I really I love the scenes on the rooftop. Yeah, and at the fourth day at the Hamptons. It was nice in studio, but the other 2 days, there was, I don't know, there was a lot of flare when you see this image, when the lights, the sun in the back, and I try to figure out a lot how to shoot this. Yeah, I shoot directly in the light. Yeah, in the sun. Yeah, and go down a little bit with my aperture, maybe on 20 or sometimes on 22, and the strobe on the model gives us a real good light on her body. But I like the bright light in the back and on the hair of the model. So the sun over here is a rim light, and the hair light and the backlight, and this is shooting I really love.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, to me, I'm all about on location, and I think that you totally mastered it, both in studio and on location. I mean, the studio stuff, I know you're a master at that, and you did amazing. But to me, you know, some of this on location stuff, was absolutely breathtaking. Shooting stuff like this with the owl, with this amazing African-American model. Tell me a little bit more about that, as far as like working with like the giant owls and, you know, lighting them and working with models and the owls and trying to capture just the right moment.
I tell you the truth. I'm scared about birds. If a small bird is flying in my room, I get scared and run out. Yeah. So I probably could never be a model with a falcon or an owl, but it's amazing to shoot these animals. I like to be on distance. Yeah, and this I was surprised how. The models were acting with these animals, especially the other Russian models. A model, I don't know the name anymore. She was she hugs, or she touched this owl, and the owl started flying. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, it's also a challenge shooting with animals, because the owl is not always looking in the right direction, and so the model is sometimes not looking in the right direction. So you have to capture the moment in the right second. Yeah. So I shoot a lot of frames to get this shot like this. Yeah, we're both looking in the right direction and looking good. This selection you did with the models and with the fashion was really amazing. You can see that only in big magazines, and I really appreciate what you did here with the models and with the selection of the clothes and of the fashion. Yeah, I was shooting Angelina a couple of weeks ago in New York, but she was different. Yeah, she was really nice, and I think she had really fun. All the 4 days when we were shooting. Yeah. Oh, my light is horrible here. This is my apartment and it's dark.
That's okay, Hans.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah. And I think
so she was totally different when working this time. So it was that you had kind of a different experience working with the same model that you'd worked with on another shoot. You just said so happened to work with her, and then this time she totally came alive, and she was a different. Oh,
energy. She was totally different. She was totally different. This is, I don't know. Sometimes I think some models want to know the photographer in person, talking to him a couple of sentences, and since they on set they are different. Yeah. Yeah. They are a little bit different.
Yeah, this is incredible. I love this scene with the falcon. And I love the lighting here, because, you know, we created this gorgeous light where we had a giant 8x8 foot bounce to the right-hand side. We had it beautifully backlit. And then I think we also had a flash strobe and kind of to add a little bit of pop when we needed to. And, you know, whether the sun goes behind a cloud or not. And I just love the dappled light behind you. It's absolutely beautiful.
I like the right light a little bit on the right side of the face, and then the shadow on the other side. I like that, and I try to get it better with this high contrast in a black and white image. So even if she has white clothes and the sun is bright, you get a good black and white image out of it. Yeah, absolutely. Because, you see her body through the sun. That's unbelievable. Yeah.
And I love a scene like this, Hans, because this was really dynamic, and this is a hard scene to light. But we created some real magic here, and we started off utilizing strobes, and I think we brought in like we used Pro Photo B1s, which are portable battery operated strobes, right? And we used beauty.
I think you have only one strobe over here, or one or two blue dishes. Yeah, I think.
And then, so what we ended up doing is having one model lit with the giant bounce, and then the other model lit with the strobe. And and I loved it, and it allowed you the liberty to have that African-American model come from behind and walk in and move and still be lit by that giant bounce, and then flash strobe as well. So I feel like this is a really dynamic scene, and I love the nuances of how you lit it and also how you photographed it. I love the, you know, the pointing of the toe. I love the flipping of the dress. I love the light on both of the models. I think it's really majestic, and you did an amazing job here, Hans.
I like to shoot high-speed sync with flash, but I think this with this strobe it didn't work. And but you have to do the best out of it. You see the close is a little bit, it's not blurry. This is the movement of the close, and yeah, but I think it's still good. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And by the way, guys, I just launched a poll. You know, Hans has attended, I believe, like 11 workshops with me, and he's done so much incredible work over the last year and a half and created mind-blowing content. You know, he's attended the Elite Masterclass, the Newport Beach workshop on lifestyle advertising, the Las Vegas high fashion workshop out in the desert on cracked earth. He shot at the Miami Beach workshop with top swim models. He's shot at the Chicago fashion lifestyle workshop, and he's you know, and so he's done a lot of our incredible experiences. And I want to ask you, which photographic workshops might you be interested in attending? If you see this and you love the lighting here and you love kind of what our photographers were able to achieve, please answer the poll and let us know which one would be interesting to you. And of the workshops coming up, you know, we've got our Elite Masterclass coming up in a couple of weeks. Yeah. It is completely sold out. Hans is going to be there, and he's helped kind of carefully art direct some of the storytelling of what we're going to be doing for the masterclass, along with Mike Weilet. Mike Weilet has kind of come up and conceptualized the stories that we're going to be telling, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. But also, you know, I'd love for you guys to tell me, you know, what would be interesting to you. And it doesn't have to be a city that you live in. That's okay. It can also be, you know, a city maybe that you want to shoot at. And we recommend that because a photographer like Hans, for instance, who lives in Orange County, he believes that it's valuable to go and shoot in other places, to shoot in New York, have a presence in New York, you know, have a presence in Chicago, a presence in Miami, and be able to create amazing content. And by the way, the images coming up of what we're going to be shooting, I'm going to show you guys a sneak peek of the creative briefs of what we're going to be shooting at the Elite Masterclass. We're going to be shooting a vintage couture fashion editorial with airplanes, and I've got some amazing locations lined up for this, with incredible airplanes, vintage airplanes, world-class top supermodels that have been in Vogue, Vanity Fair, ELLE, Harper's Bazaar, and I'm bringing in some of the best fashion stylists in the country to style this. And this is just going to be on one of the fashion days in Los Angeles. Now, of course, this workshop's totally sold out, but we will be having this one next year as well. And this is one of our most sought after and exciting workshops, because we recommend people have taken at least a couple of our main section workshops first before attending this. And I like to work with our photographers personally to help conceptualize the idea. You know, Hans has had a lot of say, you know, in some of our workshops, and that's why some of the magic has been so spectacular, is Hans has been a big player in that, as well as he's going to be helping with some of the casting of some of the shoots coming up, which is also even more incredible because he'll be helping select the models. And then also, these creative briefs were specifically created by Michael Weilet, who is one of our also our top fashion photographers that has come to. He's also come to about 8 of our workshops over the last few years, and he helped design, and he actually created these amazing creative briefs and concepts of what we're going to be shooting. We're going to be doing a Mad Max story out in the desert, a desert fashion story. It's going to be kind of very, very Burning Man and desert Mad Max. We're going to be doing something like that as well. And we also, by the way, are adding, it's not only a 4-day, we're adding a 5th day this time, guys. And it's going to be up to you guys to come up with the concepts. We have a day 5. So if any of you guys that are attending right now, I know most of my photographers that are coming to the masterclass are on this webinar. Make sure to add the day 5 because it's going to be absolutely mind-blowing. We had so much interest in doing 5 days that we thought we would add that for the masterclass as well. And all of the workshops in 2022 are 5-day experiences. We're going to be shooting on all 5 days. From Newport Beach to Vegas to Miami Beach to DC, etc. So please, if you guys haven't answered it, please jump on the poll in the poll section and answer the poll. Which photographic experiences would you be interested in attending? And every single one of the workshops, we get really in depth about mastering location and studio lighting. So
let me say one word to your workshops. So you tell the people that I attended so many workshops. That has a reason. You know, practicing with these models is, in my opinion, everything. You have to practice. Yeah, it's a practice of work. And if you try to do it by your own, you don't have the chance to do it. If you don't, you always say that if you don't have the right portfolio, the agencies don't give you the good models, the best models. And although the stylists, I try to do it by my own. Even in lifestyle, it's not easy, and it costs also a lot of money, even if you do it only for one day. Yeah, and you bring everything to the set. So, because of your experience with over 100 workshops, it's easy for us to get good shots and have a good practice and training if you do it by your own. Yeah, if you do it one time and then you wait another 2 years or whatever, you lose everything you got in this workshop. So COVID was the reason. In July last year, I said, "Oh my God, COVID! My portrait business went down. Nobody was coming in my studio anymore." And then you have to do something, yeah. And then I met you, and then I said, "Okay, now I do it consistent until I have a level. I'm feeling confident with shooting by myself, and I really did what you say, yeah. You told me things. You were my mentor, and you gave me this good feeling that I'm able to do it by my own, yeah. And I'm not an Instagram guy or a social media guy. I have my own web pages, and you do the selection after the workshops. What I'm thinking, this is very, very important, because you give us a review of all the images we shot, and then this is an image that's good for your portfolio or not. And I did what you say, or what you said to me, and I feel you are like a mentor to us students, and if you follow, you go the right way. You can't go wrong. Yeah, and okay, this it's not a cheap thing, but invest not in your equipment, invest in your portfolio, because this is the most important thing you need for your career and for your business. Yeah.
That was some genius words, Hans. I appreciate that. You mentioned something there. Don't waste money on investing in more gear, but invest in your portfolio. That's really smart. And I know that you did that. You really invested in your portfolio, and you now have not only a world-class, iconic fashion portfolio with models from VOGUE, but you also have an epic lifestyle advertising portfolio that can land you advertising campaigns, which is
Kevin, I'm really surprised. Crystal is here too as a panelist. I see that as an image. So I don't know. Crystal had, I think, one workshop in Vegas, right? Or two? I don't know. One or two workshops. I was so surprised what she is doing with her older camera, with her Canon 5D Mark III, not even a Mark IV, with 20 megapixels, and how she was directing the models and the scene after one workshop. I was really surprised. Yeah, and congratulations, Crystal. You did a great job. I saw your images. They are amazing. Yeah. So
Crystal is incredible, Hans, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't have to have the brand new Canon R5 or
no,
whatever
you don't need
camera.
it. You don't need it. You don't. She's the best example for that yet you can do with even a not super modern equipment, incredible shots, but she's also super good in directing, and she will have a great career. I know that. Crystal, yeah.
Absolutely. And you can see that she just attended New York and the Vegas workshop, and Crystal created some absolutely mind-blowing shots. This is another one of my favorites, just showing, I mean, this is iconic. This is epic. And I'm in love with what she shot here. And this is on a camera that's, from several years ago, 8 years ago or so when that camera came out, because it doesn't really matter with the gear. And I think that that's really important.
You don't see the difference in such a size of an image if it's a mid-format camera or a camera from 2012 or whatever. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's I think if you do the right lighting, do the right exposure, and do a little retouching, you get an incredible shot. Yeah, this is it's amazing. Yeah, and the art directing, I think it's very important, and this is the thing we learn in your workshop from you, because you direct us what we have to do. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Hans. And I love this. And just the very last thing I wanted to mention about with you and your work is the lifestyle lighting. This is very different. And, today, we're obviously talking about studio lighting and fashion lighting, but also lifestyle lighting is a whole different beast. And this is where most photographers fail. Now, this is something in my own personal experience, Hans. When I got into lifestyle photography, I started to approach it the same way I used to do fashion photography. So when I first started, I was trying to use strobe lights. I was trying to light it like a fashion photographer. And you know what? I crashed and burned. I did such a bad job when I first started because I was trying to light it the way that I knew how, which was location fashion photography. But what I realized is that it makes it look too fake if you do that. But if you light it in a way where it's natural and real and authentic, like the image we're looking at right now that you shot at the Newport Beach workshop with me.
And that was my first workshop, you know that.
This is the first workshop, and it completely is magical. The lighting is majestic. It's real. It's authentic. And what we did here was we shot with giant bounces, and I'm usually using giant silver bounces and white bounces, and incorporating bounces also with scrims. Like in this sequence right here, we're shooting with a giant scrim overhead, scrimming the models. And it's a 1 1/4 stop scrim. So I basically diffuse the light on the models to make sure that they are not overpowered by the sun. And we're shooting at the middle of the day. This is like 1 o'clock in the afternoon in brutal light, but the light is magical because then we come in with a giant 8x8 bounce. I think we might have even had 2 bounces on this one, 2 8x8s. So we had, it's a massive bounce going back into the models and illuminating them and capturing this moment. But it's a whole different way of lighting. So if you guys are interested in lighting and learning how to do location lighting and manipulation of natural light on location at a place like, and you're interested in lifestyle photography, this is something that I would love to work with you on personally.
So there are 2 things. You cover the main parts of photography, fashion and lifestyle. So fashion is nice, it's beautiful, you shoot with beautiful models, but I don't think it's a big money maker. Yeah, if you're shooting for magazines don't have so much money, you don't get so much money out of it. But here with lifestyle, it's, in my opinion, much more fun because they all smile and jump and move. And you get good campaigns, good, paid campaigns with lifestyle and advertising. Yeah. So guys, from the masterclass, I think it was my idea with the 5th day. Yeah, because we have only 2 days fashion, and I think a second day is the 5th day for lifestyle. 2 days fashion, 2 days lifestyle would be amazing. Yeah, and I hope the guy's gonna join. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Han. And I think that you're a good example of being able to master it. And even in a tight situation like this, where we're inside of this, 1960s, VW bus, and it's dark, it's super dark on the inside of it, but we lit it with a giant 8x8 bounce coming in from the side. And you're shooting kind of through one of the windows and capturing this moment with these 2 adorable little puppies and the 3 models having a great time, but creating scenes where they look authentic and real and fun. Or scenes like this, where again, it's scrimmed with a giant 8x8 foot scrim above, and then a giant bounce comes in to illuminate them and make them pop and look at natural and real. If you guys want to talk about this, I can help you.
And this was another thing. This was a time where COVID was really a big thing at this time, And we were shooting all the time at this beautiful property here in Newport Beach, yeah. And nobody got sick because we all took care of each other. it was a good thing. It was the right thing I could do on during COVID.
Absolutely.
And I don't regret.
Absolutely. Well, Hans, you're an inspiration to all of us, and that's why I really wanted you to come on today. And I'm so proud of what you've accomplished, because you've created absolute magic, and your images just speak for themselves. The lighting is amazing, the studio lighting, the on-location lighting, both for fashion and for lifestyle. And I can't wait to see kind of where it all takes you. But thanks so much for joining us today, Hans.
Okay, thank you. I go to bed now.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, thank you guys. Bye.
All right, guys. So we got to see a little bit about, you know, one of our great photographers and what he was able to create and accomplish. And I'm so proud of him. I also want to bring on another photographer next. I'd like to bring on the great Crystal Bear, which we got a little sneak peek of her images, which were breathtakingly amazing. And before we bring her on, I'd love to answer just a few Q&A, a little bit of, you know, some questions and answers if you guys have. And if you guys haven't answered already, which workshop would you be interested in attending? Please answer now. I'd love to know which experience you are interested in. You know, you guys got to see a little bit of a sneak peek of some of that stuff between the different experiences, the different, you know, workshops, both lifestyle in Newport as well as high fashion in New York. And of course, we have experiences all over the country. We have Washington, D.C. We've got Miami Beach. We've got, you know, amazing experiences in, you know, New York to Chicago to Vegas, high fashion and lifestyle, swim, all kinds of incredible content that's totally over the top. And we actually can work with literally any style of photographer. So whether you're a wedding photographer, a portrait photographer, a food photographer, a product photographer, we work with them all. And I think that's important to realize, because sometimes photographers say, oh, well, you know, you just shoot fashion or whatever. That's all you guys work on. No, we actually work with all photographers. And I've had the array of all of them, because all photographers need to master lighting, art direction, mastering sequences with world-class top models, and how to learn and produce these productions and light them at the highest level. You know, so, you know, for instance, this is an example of what we just did in Vegas as well. Unbelievable content and amazing, amazing talent, world-class production, and making sure that the lighting is absolutely on point. Whether in this situation, I believe this was actually just purely natural lit. And oftentimes in a scene like this, if we can get away with just doing natural lit, I'll also generally have an 8x8 bounce standing by to add just a little bit of pop to the model if the natural lighting isn't just enough. But this one also, I mean, is a good example of just having the model looking into the right direction. Same with this. This was also shot at Las Vegas experience, and having the model looking in the right direction at the right time of day in the evening. You know, this is, you know, probably 5 o'clock as the sun's starting to dip and getting really beautiful dramatic light. All right. So if you guys, hopefully you guys answered that amazing poll. I'm going to share the results. The majority of you sounds like want to attend the Elite Masterclass. That's awesome. I'm really happy, and I want you guys to attend. That is our most elite experience of the year. And just to kind of give you guys an idea of why that's the most elite experience of the year, it's because we win awards. It's because our photographers are winning Top Fashion Photographer of the Year award, like Adam Friedman did, and won in the 2019 Top Fashion Photographer of the Year award, and he won with images from our workshop, because we get award-winning images year after year from our workshops, from attendees that attend, and that's a big deal to win big-time awards like that. You know, it makes me really excited. It makes me really happy to be able to, you know, share something like that and have photographers create, you know, epic content, you know, at the masterclass like this, right? And this is a real dress. This is like a 30-foot long dress. This was, you know, images at the masterclass last year. It was incredible. You know, creating moments that are absolutely breathtaking, and also getting them published, not only in awards, but also in magazines, like Number 8 magazine out of Australia, and having these amazing publications with breathtaking lighting, iconic images, absolutely key. It sounds like a lot of you guys also want to attend Newport Beach, Vegas, Miami. DC sounds like a really hot one. That I think that's the next biggest interest. That one, the cool thing about DC, you guys, is that we're going to be doing it all on Lifestyle Slice of Life, and we're going to be showing you how to master that on-location slice of life lighting with the manipulation of natural light and creating those moments, allowing them to unfold, and then capturing them to create absolute magic. And we're going to be doing this with all 5 days on Lifestyle, and we're going to be flying in top models from New York, Miami, and LA to the DC workshop. So we're not going to just have like local DC models. We're going to be flying in top A-list models from the biggest markets, and we're going to be shooting at massive scale, epic locations in the Virginia area of DC that we're lining up. So it's going to be absolutely breathtaking. And I'm really excited. It's going to be, you know, at that same level of quality of what we get in New York and LA, but, you know, because of the models, but it's also going to be at locations in DC, and it's going to be all lifestyle, which is really exciting. So if you guys are interested in that, let us know, because we want to work with you personally to help coach you and take you to the next level of your photographic career. And we're here for you. And we're going to give you an opportunity to set up a one-on-one location lighting and studio strategy session with one of our professional photographic consultants. And that's something we're going to give you guys an opportunity to do. And we'll send you guys a link for that as well today. So make sure to stay tuned, because we are offering that this week, and we have some amazing stuff coming on. We even have photographic consultants joining us from England, as well as in Florida, California, etc. So we have incredible team members around the world that are working with our photographers, and it's a free opportunity. And that's why I think it's really special. I'm also launching a poll now that I'd like to know, you know, Hans mentioned something, you know, what would be, well, you know, what would be essentially a production at that scale? We looked at these images, just like we shot in New York. It's equivalent of $100,000 a day production, right? So if you're able to budget that, I mean, that's insane. That's a lot of money. It's to produce. Hans mentioned he tried to do it on his own, and it can cost a fortune. It can be extremely expensive to make something like that happen, you know, whether it's high fashion or whether it's like a swim, you know, swim shoot. All the lighting equipment, all of the models, all of the production, and most importantly, the styling. The scale of what we're doing is so high end that it costs a fortune to do. And this is actually an example of like what we're doing in Miami Beach. But you know, it's equivalent of about $100,000 a day production. So 5 days, it's about a $500,000 job right there that you're going to have access to. And you're going to have full access to world-class top models. Like right here, we worked with models from, this is Haley Maxfield from the cover of Playboy. We had Natalia, who is Miss Brazil. We had a girl who was from the Guess campaign, Ashley Marie. We had top girls from Sports Illustrated. I mean, it was A-list world-class. And this is a workshop we have coming up in Miami in April. We do it just once a year. It's sold out every single year. I think there's like maybe a couple spots left this year and this next year in 2022. That would be one that's absolutely world-class. But to do this on your own costs a fortune. And that's why it's important to realize, if you want to shoot top models from major campaigns, or you want to shoot for Vogue magazine, you've got to have models from Vogue. You've got to have fashion stylists from Vogue. And you know what? Those cost a fortune. Those cost an absolute fortune to have talent at that level. So making sure that we can have talent that's so epic and so over the top that you are feeling empowered, and you have content that you are going to be able to book more models, book more top talent, and be able to essentially use this as your kind of your cornerstone to becoming and mastering your own location lighting and studio lighting. Because you know what? If you don't have A-list models in your book, you're not going to be able to book A-list models. You just won't. If you don't have models from Vogue in your portfolio, you're not going to book Vogue. You just won't. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. You know, but if you have top talent, just like we offer at these experiences, it will catapult you to the highest level of your potential. I promise. You know, this is from our New York workshop a couple years ago. This is from a photographer that ended up publishing it in Vintage New York City magazine, Veronica Jankowski, and it shot model from Vogue, you know, made the cover of Vintage New York City magazine, and kicked her wedding career to a whole nother level. And this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. You've got to have A-list models, because that is what people are going to notice. That is what's going to help take you to the highest level of your potential, is having quality talent in your book, because now it opens up all the doors. It creates what we call photographic currency. And that's what we're talking about when it comes to lighting is having photographic currency is not only the lighting, the studio lighting, the location lighting, but also the top tier models that are in it. And by the way, I know you guys, you got a lot of burning questions here. So sure, please make sure that they are all up in the Q&A. So I have a question from Joseph Chan, asks, do you still use Pocket Wizards? Absolutely, I use Pocket Wizards. I love Pocket Wizards. They're amazing. So it depends on the lighting setup that I'm using. But I generally use the ProPhoto transmitter when I'm using the ProPhoto B1s, or say the ProPhoto 8A, which is a very expensive ProPhoto a pack that you plug heads into. But if I'm shooting something with, say, another lighting setup like an acute pack, or if I need additional transmitters, I'm going to use the Pocket Wizards and use them. I like the Pocket Wizard transceivers, and I attach that one on the camera, one on the light. Or if I'm using, say, a ProPhoto Acute Pack, I'm going to sync it so that the ProPhoto Acute Pack is synced to my Pocket Wizard because it actually has a built-in receiver in it. But good question, Joseph. I appreciate that. Renee, who just attended this amazing workshop, who's going to be joining us today, asks, do you use a scrim to cut down the light, or do you add light to overcome the shadows? Excellent, excellent question, Renee. Absolutely love that question. So when using the scrim, we just saw that video in Miami, and and basically what we're going to be doing is generally using the scrim to cut down the shadows. That's usually what I'm using the scrim for. And then essentially I want to cut down the shadows. I want to make the light a lot more soft and diffuse, but I'm also using it essentially as a giant softbox for the sun. That's what I'm using the scrim for. And what's cool about it is you can also modify the angle of the scrim so that you can get just the right angle and essentially turn the sun into a giant softbox, which is one thing that I do all the time to create absolutely epic moments so that I can create really beautiful soft light on the models. This is an example, something like this. And creating these amazing, amazing moments. And that was shot in Miami Beach. But definitely, I like to use them in conjunction. So I'm going to use the scrim, the giant scrim, like an 8x8 foot scrim, or maybe even bigger. And I'm going to scrim over the top of the model. And then I'm going to bring in either a strobe or a giant bounce to then come in and illuminate the model. So I usually use them in collaboration with each other, between a scrim and a bounce together. And I think that that's a really good, effective way of mastering lighting techniques, is to essentially use them in collaboration between a scrim and a bounce. It depends on how bright it is, but I usually use scrims in collaboration with a bounce. If we're in a place like Miami Beach, for instance, it's even more important because the light is so bright and it's so intense that I want to make sure that the models are not blown out, and the models have a really nice fresh light. So this is an example of something that we shot in Miami, with a combination between a giant scrim overhead, scrimming the models, and then a giant bounce bouncing in and adding more light to them. So this gives you just a little bit of an idea of what that looks like. Creating magic like this on location in Miami Beach at our Miami Beach workshop, and shooting obviously with top models, but also lighting it in a way where we've got scrims, we've got bounces, and creating a scene. You can actually see it from above right there of what it actually looks like. I think we shot this with a giant white, and then giant white bounce because the silver was too intense, and then a 1 1/4 stop scrim overhead. You can see it a little bit there. Give you guys an idea. And this is going to create that kind of beautiful, fresh light, not only for photography, but also for video. It's going to be great. And that's why I love doing stuff like that, is it creates absolute magic on location like that. Okay, but these are excellent questions. Keep them rolling in. And also, I want to encourage you guys to please answer the poll. What would be your budget to invest in your photographic portfolio and enroll in one of these epic photographic experiences? And I would say on average, most photographers, 10 to 15,000 a year is pretty good as far as investing in your portfolio. If you can invest more, obviously that's going to benefit you significantly. Me personally, what I develop and what I put into my own photographic body of work, portfolio, and marketing, I spend about 80,000 myself, but it pays off because I book huge ad campaigns. In fact, I've got a campaign right now that I'm shooting for. It's a $150,000 campaign. It's a 2-day job, and it's for a fashion, beauty, lifestyle brand that I'm going to be shooting for. I've shot for them before, but it's going to be shot on location in Newport Beach, and I'm going to be creating this amazing moment where I'm basically telling a story about hair, and I'm creating this whole moment where I'm basically featuring African American hair and creating this whole moment where I'm creating the scene, getting them excited and energized. Location lighting, using location lighting, and also I'm going to be using some continuous lighting such as Kino flows, which are mostly used for video lighting, and we're going to create an epic 2-day shoot. So I have stuff like that going on all the time. But it's this lifestyle stuff that ends up booking those huge jobs. But that's a great question, Renee. All right. And Renee also asks, what was the ratio of cross lighting? Or do you just adjust to a person's face, maybe 1 to 2? Okay, that's a great question. Oftentimes, I always want the key light to be slightly brighter than the rim light. Just because obviously the eye always goes to the brightest part of the image. So I generally want the key light to be slightly brighter, but not always. I mean, sometimes if you have a really bright, blown out backlight and hair light, that's not bad, having it even brighter or at the same brightness. But generally I'm going to have it maybe a half a stop or a stop brighter on the key over the rim light, just so that I can make sure that the model's face is what really, really pops. But that's another really, really good question. Okay. All right, so and then Lynn Seville had asked, the bounces, are there strobes bouncing into them or just sunlight? Great question, Lynn. A lot of photographers do incorporate strobes going into the bounces. I generally don't like to do that. I usually just do either strobes directly on the model or the giant bounce directly on the model. If I am going to use strobes and bouncing them off of something, I'll use something called a V-flat, which is essentially basically a giant piece of like foam core and taped together, costs a couple dollars to make, and you would essentially make like a corner out of it, and you flash strobe into that corner and then that back into the model. But generally I don't use those these days. Oftentimes I'm using direct light on the models. I find that to be a bit stronger, but great question, Lynn. Okay, and Kent Ollinger asks, is there a battery or power pack that will fit my strobes, standard 2 or 3 prong wall plugs? What do you use when you go into the field? Great question, Kent. Well, I'm not sure which equipment you own, but I would say that my personal favorites are the Pro Photo portable heads. They make a whole number of them. They have some amazing ones. I personally have one from a couple generations ago called the B1s or the B1Xs. Those are great. They have some new ones now that are a lot better. But I like to use portable battery operated ones. That way I can go anywhere and I can shoot either in studio or on location, all with the same equipment. The only thing is you have to replace the batteries constantly because you just burn through the batteries. I mean, honestly, you go through a battery in 20 minutes, it just burns through. It depends on how many strobes you're flash strobing. So make sure you have a lot of batteries. With the B1s, I have, 8 batteries or something that go with it. So, but they are really, really effective and pretty durable lights to travel with as well. So Scott Allen asks, does anyone use constant lighting for high fashion model shoots? Actually, yes. In fact, we are using constant lighting, Scott. We were actually using it in images that we were showing you of Hans's. We were using some constant light, and I'll actually pull these images up again to reiterate the constant light situation. But absolutely we do. You could even use something like even the modeling light on a strobe can even work. That was actually what we did here. Shooting in studio, we actually used the modeling light and it was bright enough, which was awesome. Or what I prefer would be something like a Kino Flow. I have a Kino Flow LED or a Kino Flow fluorescent, or obviously LED lights if they're bright enough. And then if you have an HMI, that's even better. But the Kino Flow or the Kino Flow Diva, those are some of my absolute favorites to do constant lighting. They're going to have really beautiful light, and it's going to kind of emulate something similar to a beauty dish or a something in line with that. Now, this is all continuous lighting, by the way. But great question. Love it. And the reason we use this is not only we shoot photography here, but we also shot video sequences of that. But great question, Scott. and would love to hear more. So guys, please, continue to ask some questions. We want to hear about them. And also please answer the poll if you haven't had a chance to. Jump on and answer what is your budget, because that is important to know. How much are you investing in your photographic portfolio? What is it? Is it going to be 5,000, 10,000, 15, 20? Because it's really critical to spend and invest your money on your portfolio rather than just equipment, like Hans said, because your equipment, isn't really going to get you anywhere. You could shoot something with an 8-year-old camera and get the same quality. It's really about the production, the top models, the lighting equipment, the styling, all of that. That's going to be the most important thing. All right, guys. So I'd love to bring on our next panelist. Crystal, I want to make sure Crystal's on because I know we've talked about her quite a bit, and she's an incredible photographer, world class. And she was able to shoot some incredible work, not only in New York, but also in Las Vegas. Crystal, good to see you.
Hi.
Hey. And you're joining us from, you're in the Bay Area in California?
Yeah, the San Francisco Bay Area. Yeah.
Excellent. So Crystal, tell me a little bit about your experience shooting fashion on location and in studio in New York. And maybe there are any lighting techniques that you learned or anything that you incorporated that allowed you to master your images.
Well, yeah, I've never been really a strong, I know flashes, but not at the level that you teach it at. And I haven't been quite as strong at that. And so I've really learned how to utilize off-camera flash even better, as well as the bounce. I was taught like natural light photography, and so this learning how you can do amazing photo shoots in the middle of the broad daylight has helped my business tremendously. I do weddings as well as a fashion and lifestyle, and you don't have a choice when you're doing weddings. You kind of, you deal with the light you have to deal with. And so all these workshops have really helped build up my ability to work in pretty much any lighting situation ever. So it's just pretty, I don't have all that equipment yet, but just being able to work with the equipment that I do have and just learning how to manipulate the light is just, priceless.
Well, Crystal, you show, if you want to do high-end weddings, you show an image like this, the one that we're looking at right now, to any bride, and they will literally lose it. They will go absolutely crazy, and they're going to want to book with you immediately for $10,000 to $15,000 to do their wedding photography, because this is high-end. This is what they want to be. They want to be glamorous, supermodel, and this kind of stuff with this level of production and model and dress. They want that embolizes what they want to be. So images like this will really benefit your wedding book. And also, I know in Vegas, we shot some images with wedding gowns and dresses that also can directly relate to that.
Yeah, I've actually, right after getting back from New York, I had a engagement session, and I was using some of the posing techniques. They were like an hour late to their session, and so the sun was like, it was like 11 o'clock, so the sun was nearly right overhead, and we were still able to create really amazing images at the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco. And I was able to pose them. I'm like, I'm going to pose you like a fashion model. She got so excited. Aww. She really did.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Crystal, because instead of being branded as a photographer, a wedding photographer, you are now branding yourself as a world-class fashion photographer that just happens to shoot weddings.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference there, because if you're just a run-of-the-mill wedding photographer, that's one thing. But if you're shooting images like this, you're a world-class fashion photographer that shoots in New York that just happens to shoot weddings. And that's when you're more sought after, because you've developed that photographic currency. It's epic.
And I think, to be honest, I struggle with this, is the self-esteem. Like it came up in the New York workshop where you're like, what are you talking about? That's an amazing image. And doing these workshops definitely helps build your self-esteem, which if you're going to sell to anybody, you have to believe in yourself first. Because if you don't believe in yourself, then you're not going to sell anything. So
100%, Crystal. And, and you should believe in yourself, because you're a world-class photographer and you've got incredible work, beautiful content, and incredible lighting. So as far as incorporating some of the lighting techniques, so are you utilizing some of this cross lighting scenario, the stuff that we worked on in New York?
I haven't yet, because it's just me, and it's really hard to do that when you don't have an assistant. Yeah. So you need to have an assistant to do that correctly. I have used assistants in the past, but I love the idea of just going in, using reflectors and having that, specifically if I had a little bit more time with Pals of Fine Arts, doing a off-camera flash and then having an assistant bounce, the sun on them. I know you don't do both. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on the lighting situation.
Oh, you can
But
do
yeah,
both. You can do both bounce and strobes, and we did a ton of that in New York.
yeah, I know Hans was doing a lot of it, and I really like that. But yeah, that I love that shot. That's one of my favorites. I love the
Absolutely
owls.
stunning. Yeah, absolutely. And look at the dress. I mean, the dress is absolutely like insanity. But yeah, I mean, we incorporated both, like in this scene right here. We used both strobes and bounce. But you don't necessarily always have to have assistance. I mean, you can set up, especially with the lightweight portable strobes these days. Just set it up on a stand with a beauty dish, and you can go to town just by yourself. Obviously, with a bounce, it's a little bit harder. And if you do need an assistant, feel free to, try to get an intern, try to get, somebody that can help, somebody out of college or high school that just really wants to be great and wants to follow you around and help you out.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'm looking into more. But that last shot you were looking at, that was the one where I wasn't super at the house, that I wasn't super, I'm like, I don't know if it's
It's
great.
epic. This is
And
mind blowing.
it turned out doing it so great. And I actually really love the sun flare coming into it. I think it adds a lot of depth to it. And one of the things with doing these workshops is that there's a lot of fear and like, oh gosh, if the lighting isn't perfect, then I just can't do the shot. And it's like, no, you work with what you have, you manipulate with what you have, and you create amazing shots. You don't sit there and wait. I've actually been taught by photographers who sat there waiting for an hour for the perfect lighting. And I'm like, no one's got time for that. Our clients don't have time for that. We need to be able to shoot amazing shots using flash. And look, this looks like a natural light almost,
You're so right. You're so right. You can't just sit around waiting for the light to get good when you've got a client there, and you've got to be able to shoot in any lighting scenario at any time of day. And that's something that I know you've had a chance to work with me on, is shooting at any time of day.
And
And
that is by itself worth its weight in gold, because especially even, I mean, I've been doing photography professionally for about 5, 6 years, and I was so scared, man. If it was not golden hour, or if the lighting wasn't perfect, I got really scared. I didn't know what to do. And now it's like, no, we got this. It's cool. Don't even worry about it. And you can give your clients, if it's consumer clients, you can give them a sense of calm. Commercial clients, again, a sense of calm, like you have control of the situation, and people want to be, to feel safe and secure that they're putting their money in the right place.
Absolutely. You're so right. You're so right. They want to feel good about it. And, and you know what? You're creating absolute magic. So Crystal, so far you've attended which workshops with us?
Las Vegas and New York.
Excellent. And how has it completely transformed your photographic career?
It's really just, I mean, I increased my wedding prices. I think I tripled my wedding prices, and people don't even balk really at I just recently had the balls to do that. And the first time I sent it off, we were chatting about it with somebody. They're like, oh, that's awesome. That's great. The price wasn't a matter, because they saw the value in my work, and the confidence that I have when I was speaking to them. And so this really, I before meeting Kevin, I'd kind of been an everything photographer. And now I've really moved into, focus, being that fashion and lifestyle photographer who happens to do weddings. Because I do weddings because I love it. It's a lot of fun. So I don't have to take weddings if I don't want to, but I do it because I love it. And so my focus is on fashion and lifestyle, and just it's really helped, turn my business. And people, oh my gosh, the amount of comments I get are just astronomical. When online, people are just like, oh my gosh, you're living your dream. That's so amazing. And it's just building my business. I plan to be a 7-figure business in the next 2 years. So I have a lot of plans, and I plan on working, pretty much going to every workshop within the next year or so. Because it's worth every penny.
That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. And I love to hear that. That is absolutely amazing. I'm so proud of you, Crystal. And it's just so cool to see, because you know what? You deserve it. You're a world-class photographer. You're greater than you even think you are. And I know it on set when you were shooting this scene, you're like, oh, I don't know if I got it. You're feeling bad about it. and you just didn't feel like it clicked. Because sometimes, you know, you look at the back of the camera and you're not really sure. But I came in and I made sure that you got what you needed and created absolute magic. And I know you already had created incredible stuff that you were kind of already feeling bad about. But then when we go back and do it again and we create that magic, walking away with content that will just absolutely blow the mind of the audience is what we're going for. You know, and especially the consumer audience, because they're wowed and dazzled by the stuff on another level. You know, and you can take the challenge against any top photographer in the Bay Area that does weddings, and you know what? You're gonna dominate.
Yeah. And I know I saw a comment come through and someone was like, oh, I don't know if I'm in the same league as you people. I totally understand that feeling, because I know there's someone, Enoch was there, and he's an amazing producer. He does amazing things. And I felt a little bit like, oh my gosh, I'm not as good as him. And Hans knows how to do it all. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm as good as him. But when you start doing it, and then you have this group of people New York had an amazing group of photographers. We were all so supportive of each other, and everybody was so nice. But it just really, it's like when other amazing photographers start telling you, hey, you're doing an amazing job, this is so great, you know, it builds your confidence. And plus, you know, if you're scared of doing that, that probably means you should do it. Because I was scared, and everyone noticed the 3 people that were in Las Vegas. They're like, wow, you really came out of your skin from your first workshop to your second workshop. It just takes like taking that first step, and then you start getting more confidence. And then the next workshop, you have more confidence, and so on and so forth.
100%, 100%. I love to hear that, Crystal. I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited about what you created, and going forward, you're, you know, becoming a world-class top photographer at the highest level. And I encourage you to, you know, get these submitted so that we can try to get you published, because that's kind of the next step. So thank you so much, Crystal. I appreciate you coming on, and it's wonderful to hear all your kind words. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks. And I've got some other amazing people that I want to jump on and hear from. We have an amazing photographer Renee, that I'd love for you to jump on. And this was Renee's very first experience with us. And she only, you know, she was really booked and busy because she's a very busy photographer. So she only was able to attend a few days. But I know she'd already signed up for I believe she's coming to the Castle experience. We're shooting at my 49-room, 40,000 square foot castle in France, and shooting with top supermodels from Paris and Milan. But I would love, Renee, for you to talk with us about your experience. And I know that it was probably a big adjustment for you. But you know, I'd love, Renee, for you to jump on, and we would love to hear from you about you know, your experience at this amazing photographic workshop, and essentially, you know, what you learned with your lighting and studio photography, because you were really involved in the studio days. And I'd love to hear a little bit about that. So Renee, let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, let me just start my video here. Hold on.
All good. All good. And I'm really proud of what you created. And I'd love to just know, you know, Renee, while you're getting that ready, was there any like certain special moment when it comes to lighting that you learned, or that kind of got you excited at the New York experience, that was just like, wow, okay, now I kind of get it?
It was actually all of it. For some reason, my camera just stopped working when you clicked me on.
Oh, okay.
So that's okay. I'm really good at talking. Oh, hold on. Let me see. I got another video. No, it just won't let me do it. Anyway, when I went in there, I come from a photojournalistic background. So I'm used to having like weddings, having to just deal with it and not really directing people. So on that first day, we had the little talk, and then we all got ready in the studio. And I was standing behind you watching how you were setting everything up. And then you set it up, and then you turned to me and said, okay, do you want to go? And I'm like, no, I have never done this before. So I let other people go before me so I could watch.
For sure.
And then I finally
like Hans would go before you. You can kind of watch what some of the stuff that he would do and it would kind of like inspire you for what, you know, what you're gonna make happen, right?
Yeah, I've never really directed anyone before. Like helping a bride and, you know, the bridal party set up for their wedding pictures, that's one thing, because they're even more nervous. And, you know, it's small and intimate. When I went to this, having to almost perform in front of all the other photographers, and, you know, the whole crew is there, and there's a makeup artist ready to jump in and touch up any shiny spots. I'm like, oh my word. It took me a little while to just tell the model to do anything. It was basically, listen, anything you do is wonderful, and I really appreciate you being here. It wasn't until maybe 1 or 2 sets later that my brains came back to me. And I was like, well, I kind of know about modeling and the correct pose I want to see. I just have to find my voice and say it, and then start getting in the rhythm of pose, shoot, pose, shoot. And I had to remember who I was and be able to connect to the person who was in front of me. It's a human being. Sure, they have like loads of experience, but you know, you've got to talk to them. So, and then my favorite bit was, I was doing pictures. This is on the second day. I was doing pictures, and you know, the voice that whispers in your ear, it was actually you putting me on an apple box.
I love it.
And then saying, you know, it's also your angle. And I was like, oh yeah, because I'm used to shooting from either a theater pit or a music pit or weddings where it's like anything goes. And it's like, oh, so yeah, that was really put some lights on.
Let me just share. I know this is a video from our LA experience on a rooftop, because we haven't edited the New York video yet. But this is a little bit of a, you know, to kind of give you guys a little bit of an idea of what that's like, you know. And this is, you know, what it's like actually on set of one of these amazing experiences. This one we had shot on the rooftop of the LA Fashion Magazine. We have a world-class production, and every little detail comes together for this epic moment. My name is Kevin Michael Schmitz. I'm a celebrity fashion advertising photographer. I specialize in just creating stories and telling stories and making them completely over the top by art directing, storyboarding, and then putting it into production, creating this epic. You see this beautiful space that we're shooting at the penthouse suites of Los Angeles Fashion Magazine. Passing from the top models from the arena. So when we're doing content like this, you know, and we're shooting and learning how to location light and studio light, and you know, Renee, I know you were able to kind of learn from some of the other photographers and watch me and watch what's happening. Do you feel like, you know, the angles, you started to master those after a little bit of time, kind of watching how everybody else is mastering it?
Yep. I remember the first day after the lecture, you instructed everybody to, and I felt you were talking to me, watch what I'm doing, watch how I set things up, just watch, observe, look at all the small little details. And I did that. And you can probably see me in the corner furiously taking notes. And that first one, I was just like, it's like, I'm not going first, sorry, not me. I have to say the confidence factors went up by like 100%. Because on the second day, at the end of that second day, I actually was shooting better because I knew what I wanted in my head, and I actually got it out in my voice. And I noticed the connection I had with the models was much better. They were looking at my camera, at me, and there was more emotion.
Mm.
So I could tell the difference from the first hour to the 6th hour to the 12th hour. And I was like, yeah, I like those.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and when shooting studio, you know, for me, it is something where you really have to capture some action sequences, and you have to shoot it from the right angle. And I think that that's something that I know, you know, Renee was not always at the right angle, and I kind of worked with her, moving her up, moving her down, as far as where she was standing and things like that. And that became pretty important. And I want to encourage you guys to all do that too. I generally like to have my camera about 36 inches off the ground, kind of shooting mid-range in the model, having my camera more like lined up with kind of their belly button. That is something where, as far as angle-wise, I like to be when I'm shooting fashion, especially in studio. And I think that that becomes really important to be able to like get the right angle and fill the frame with the talent, and really kind of filling the frame and capturing scenes, you know, something like this, really important to get there.
And for the audience, I'm almost 5'1". So when someone is in front of me and they're 6 foot tall, I need to stand on something. I did buy boots with heels, just so you know.
Nice. Nice. Or just have an Apple box with you at all times.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Okay, and I'm gonna also send this out to you guys, an opportunity to essentially set up your own one-on-one strategy session with one of our photographic consultants. And essentially, you know, I encourage you guys to meet our photographic consultants, to work with them on whether it's art direction, whether you want to master lighting, location or studio lighting. And we're offering free consults this week with our professional photographic consultants. I encourage you to click on that link and join us, because we can have a one-on-one dedicated free session with you guys to go over some strategies and what you guys can do next, and whether it's lighting or whether it's art direction. Go ahead and click on that link in the chat. I think it's very, very valuable to do so. All right, guys, I'd like to bring on, thank you so much, Renee, for that. And I can't wait to see you in France at the castle, because it's going to be absolutely epic. And for you to come to these upcoming experiences with us, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I may need video lessons, just saying.
Oh yeah, well that's what we're there for, is to create magic with video, as well as you know, still photography. Shooting video, of course, is super key. And also I've got, you know, we just did a shoot at the castle, so we're going to be you know, not only you know, shooting at this 49-room epic castle, but also we're going to be you know, working with some unbelievable top models there as well. This is actually, here's a little, we basically staged a wedding fashion shoot there just about a month ago. And we created some amazing content that I'm going to show you guys here. In fact, the great Bobby Locke, who is going to be joining us. This is just a few little edits and clips that we threw together of what we shot at the castle. And we shot with these two amazing Frisian horses. And we shot with these incredible wedding designers, and then the model we had brought in from Germany, and just created some absolute magic together. And then everything was on gimbal. So we created a lot of action sequences and movement, and I loved it, you know. So anyway, I can't wait to see you there. It's going to be amazing, and I hope you guys can join us as well at the castle, because it's going to be an experience of a lifetime that you will never forget. I can promise you that. All right, well, thank you so much, and I can't wait to bring on the next panelist. We've got, and also I can take some more questions as well, but I would love to bring on right now, you know, I know it's getting late there in England, so Bobby, I'd love for you to jump on. Bobby Locke was actually there assisting me on this production at the castle. And Bobby was, she's also an amazing photographer herself. And her father was a photographer, and she lives in France, actually not too far from the castle. And she had an experience to join us, and she is now one of our photographic consultants. So also, if you guys do want to do a one-on-one strategy session with Bobby, she would love to take you on. So Bobby, I would love for you to, you know, tell us a little bit about kind of why you think lighting, you know, what about lighting is critical, and, you know, and what about it kind of makes an image pop? And I know you got to work with me, you know, at the castle and see some of the action and sequences and stuff like that. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kevin has been talking about lighting and about the heat of the day and about various other things, and you know, backlight and front light and strobes and all the rest of it. And I really got it more than ever, actually, on the day 2 at the chateau, which was incredible, because the first day that we were doing some stuff, it was just beautiful light, it was natural light, it was clear blue sky. Second day was a bit flat, and you know, they worked so hard on lighting the model, and so I was just picking up my camera and just doing some behind the scenes stuff on day 2, and actually it really hit me that, you know, the lighting that Kevin was using just made everything so come alive, really. I mean, this was one of mine, just taking a photograph of Kevin taking a photograph of this beautiful model, but and he was improvising a lot on stuff that he didn't have at the castle at the moment, which he will have. But it just made everything so come alive, and yeah, it was just brilliant to see how he worked doing all of this, and made it all just go pop.
Well, thank you, Bobby. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a complicated set, complicated production, as you can imagine. And then as the light shifts, of course, it becomes even more complicated as we're, you know, when we're shooting something like that. So when the light shifted to becoming a little bit more diffused, how did the light kind of make it come alive? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, literally, what was a flat light completely, when the sun went behind the clouds, it was still a beautiful day, and there was still natural light, and Kevin was making the most of natural light, obviously, but obviously had everything there on hand to be able to make everything really crystal, and had everybody working together as a team to move things around, with the sun moving around as well when it did come out from the clouds. And so, yeah, it was a professional shoot, and obviously, you know, the Chateau Castle is amazing, and is just such a fantastic backdrop.
Excellent, excellent. So your experience as a photographer, you know, do you feel like to master lighting, that kind of takes you to a next level, right, in your photography?
Oh, goodness me, absolutely. I mean, I've been making notes, Kevin, as you've been talking, and I'm just literally scribbling down, going, oh my goodness me, yeah, you know, there are lights I have got, there's lights I want to get, but you know, and there's and watching you deal with everything that you were using, and the way that you moved it around was all new to me, and it was just incredible to see.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'm so happy that we had you on, Bobby, because you were wonderful on set, and I think it really helped kind of showcase what a production is like. And you know, you can kind of see what it's going to be like. But when we get there, obviously, at the castle next August for the Epic Workshop, we're going to be bringing in, you know, world-class top fashion models. We're going to be huge, I mean, massive scale fashion dresses. We're going to have a carriage with horses in unbelievable production. And I can't wait to make that happen. And I know some of our photographers are going to be there creating magic with us with you know, some of the most over-the-top productions we've ever done. But welcome to the team, Bobby. And I'd love for you guys, if you want to set up a dedicated Zoom with Bobby or Daniel Rothschild or Asia or with Priscilla. We have some amazing photographic consultants, and we encourage you guys to click on the link in the chat and set up a dedicated one-on-one photographic consult with them. So thank you guys so much. All right, I'd love to bring on Priscilla and also answer a few more of your guys' questions. Priscilla is kind of the magic behind a lot of this. She's the one who actually brought on that amazing, the incredible owls, the amazing falcons and hawks, and incredible production. She's kind of the, you know, the magic behind all of it, and she helps produce these epic shoots, which is pretty spectacular. And, you know, and also, you know, she is also modeled as well. So it's really cool to kind of get from her perspective all of that. So Priscilla, you know, I'd love for you to let us know, essentially, you know, you talk to and consult with a lot of photographers, and I know that you work a lot with the animals, right? With bringing in owls or camels, Bactrian camels, to rearing horses and stuff. Are there any strategies that you use on a set like that? Because when you're lighting something with animals, it can be a lot more complicated because you have to deal with a lot more variables and stuff like that. Can you talk to that a little bit? I'd love to hear.
Sure. Hey guys, it's great to join you and be on again. There's so many animals that we've worked with this year. They're all amazing. They're all gorgeous, and I've definitely got some favorites. The owls and we had some hawks and owls in New York last week, pretty much. And yeah, they were just amazing to work with. They were the most tame, placid, relaxed owls. Apparently they were all hand raised, so they're absolutely used to it. They love this kind of environment, and they thrive in it. The guy that we worked with, and if anyone is in the New York area and wants to work with him or with owls on a shoot, especially, you know, if you're nervous or, you know, you think the models might be nervous, this guy is the guy to go to. He is absolutely amazing. He was great on set. He was so relaxed. And something that, you know, when you're working with animals, I think something I don't particularly like is when the animal handler turns up and they're more stressed than the animal, you know, and they're not sure what's going on, even if they've done, you know, fashion shoots, and, you know, they might have worked in film and TV. You know, when the handler kind of conveys that stress to the model, that's what you don't want. So this guy was amazing. He just turned up. He's like, oh, just put your hand here. I'm going to put her there. She's totally fine. I'm going to go get a drink now, and I'll be back whenever you're done with the owl. She'll be fine. As long as you want to be there, as long as you need her. And he loved it. This guy works, his name's Tom Cullen, and it's TC Bird Management. I'll put it in the chat after. And yeah, he's amazing. This guy does, you know, work for Netflix and all sorts of TV shows and amazing opportunities. And for him, this was an easy day because he does a lot of educational experiences as well with his birds. So he said this was easy. He just put them on the models and got to sit down and relax for the day. So these birds were just amazing. Now, being owls, they're obviously nocturnal. So, you know, the only issue working with them is obviously how they react to the light and how they go with flashes and all sorts of light. So, you know, for some animals, we've had a lot of horses this year, and camels, you know, anything that reacts to something big that's moving, like a horse would react to that kind of movement. It can be good to use bouncers, you know, something continuous, and, you know, once they get used to it, so obviously try it out with them before you throw a model into the scene, you know, then, you know, try with the bounce first and just get them relaxed, get them used to it, keep the movements nice and smooth, and that can be a great way to do it. But, you know, for some animals, even just the movement of the balance with that like silver light hitting them once you move it, you know, they can't take it. So sometimes just a simple better option. And for the owls, I think we predominantly use the strobes, but honestly, they were so quiet. I think we could have got away with just about anything with them. They were pretty amazing. And the little one there, I've forgotten his name, but he just sat there, you know, quiet as mouse just for hours, and he was happy. They were really light. We even had some of our photographers that got a chance to launch some of the falcons and the hawks at the end of the day and practice some little training runs with them. So it was pretty fun. The guy was amazing. Tom Cullen, and it's TC Bird Management out of of New York. But yeah, the animals that we've had this year have been pretty amazing to work with. I highly recommend him. And the owls are just such a, you know, an incredibly like high-end feel that they add to any story. And I really love the look of them. I love it when their eyes and the color in their eyes pops with the dress. And you know, that one, I think that's one of the horned owls. He was beautiful. He's got these big orange, like amber eyes that just looked amazing. But yeah, we've got all sorts of surprises in store, believe it or not, but I'm not the only animal wrangler of sorts in the photography workshop series. Bobby, who just spoke, believe it or not, she's actually worked in a circus, and elephants might be coming. I'm not going to say where, I'm not going to say when. Okay, we always like to keep them as surprises, but elephants is the next big thing. So get ready for that. And yeah, we might need to get some really oversized bouncers and all sorts of things for them, Kevin.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, this is, we also, you know, do them, we've used animals and lit animals in all these different locations, even a place like this up in the snow, which was pretty unique. You know, we shot reindeer, we shot with Bactrian camels, we shot with all kinds of incredible animals, even in, you know, cold climates as well as hot climates. Now, you mentioned a few things about lighting them, Priscilla, and I think this is really important. It's understanding how the animal is going to react to the light. So for instance, a lot of times if it's a large animal, they can tend to be a little bit scared of really, really bright lights. So for instance, you know, horses, you know, reindeer, you know, Bactrian camels, they tended to get a little bit funny when you have a giant 8 by 8 foot bounce silver. You know, so you have to get them a little used to it. You got to bring them up near it. Make sure once they know it's there and it kind of stays there, it's less of an issue. But generally getting them a little used to it before you bring the models in so they don't get spooked, especially if a model's riding a horse. But it can be really effective because especially the animal's moving. Another thing we can do is using strobes on animals if they can react poorly to it. Like I was a little concerned that the giant bounce was going to really scare the birds. So we brought in, you know, with the owls and the hawks and the falcons, we brought in strobes, which didn't seem to affect them. They didn't seem to really be bothered at all by the strobes. So we could strobe them all day and they didn't seem to have a problem with it. But also, you know, sometimes I was lighting the model and the animal separately. So having one light on the model, one light on the animal. But just being very aware of where they are, how they're reacting and what they're doing, and also working with the animal. So for instance, in this situation, we had a giant bouncing light in addition to, of course, all the white snow. But the reindeer, they didn't seem to have too much of a problem of the giant bounce. But what they were having a problem with was being pulled. They don't like to be pulled. So what we did was work with it. We just went ahead and made the scene pulling the reindeer. So it was like, you know, if you go back and actually see, like, this is kind of a fun scene where it's like the reindeer are resisting the models, right? But the light didn't seem to bother them too much. So we just continued to use giant bounce all day on a scene like that. But awesome. Well, thanks, Priscilla. And you have created absolute magic at these photographic experiences. And I know that you are here and available to coach our photographers for one-on-one strategy sessions on art direction as well as lighting. So if any of you guys want to work personally with Priscilla and set up a free strategy consult, she is finally back in town after 3 months traveling abroad between shooting at the castle, also filming a television show that she appears in on Great Escapes that airs on CBS, as well as shooting in the Maldives for 2 more episodes of Great Escapes and creating some of the greatest content ever. Now she is finally back. So the star is back. And if you guys want to set up a consult with her, please go ahead and do that. You can click on the link in the chat. By the way, this is just a tiny little clip of some of the stuff that she did in the Maldives that we did for Great Escapes. Anyway, she is now back in town and available to do consult strategy sessions with you. So Priscilla, thank you so much. I can't wait for the next production because the masterclass is going to be absolutely mind-blowing.
It definitely will. And yeah, and also if anyone has any crazy ideas, the next animals we should incorporate, hit me up with those as well. I'd love to know. Excellent.
Thank you, Priscilla. All right. So I'd like to bring our last panelist on as well, Asia. Asia is also, she is a model and she is also a photographic consultant. She has a lot of experience on both sides of the camera and on production. And it's my pleasure to bring her aboard. So she is also on our team, and I would love for you guys to hear from Asia. So Asia, I'd love to hear from you as far as from the model's perspective. Tell me a little bit about lighting, like as far as like being comfortable in front of lights, because sometimes when we're shooting models, you know, I remember when we were shooting in New York last week, we had a top model, Russian model Adelina, who was just like not having it with a giant silver bounce. So we had to adapt and use a strobe with a beauty dish instead. Can you talk a little bit about that from the perspective of a model?
Yeah, well, I feel her pain. And I know Priscilla, you know a little bit about this too. You know, sometimes it just really comes down to you can't overcome how your body is going to react when there's certain kinds of light just in your eye. And so, you know, of course, as a model, you want to do your best and look your best. And you don't want to let the team down, and everybody's there working so hard. The photographers are doing, you know, everything they can to capture these dream images. But, you know, you can't help it sometimes that, you know, either there's wind coming into your eyes or something even blew into your eyes, or, you know, in this case, like you're describing, maybe for whatever reason, her eyes were you know, twitching or whatever from that particular kind of light. So it is a kind of, you know, I always joke about this with my model friends. It's like, we're not robots, guys. It's okay. Like, so it's just working together, you know, like figuring out how to make it work for everybody on set.
Okay, okay. So do you feel like for you are strobes a little bit easier for you to handle than say, you know, a giant bounce, like bouncing light into your face?
Me personally, yes. And it sounds like for that model you're describing too, I prefer strobes. I find, and a lot of my friends find that, I mean, we can stare into strobes all day. There's something about when you're bouncing sunlight into our eyes. It's just, I start sneezing sometimes. It's weird. So, yeah. So, you know, everybody's a little different what they can tolerate. But it really just comes down to like, you know, again, just like you said with the reindeers, it's like, all right, if the reindeer's not going to move forward with us, let's just build a shot around it and make it cute, you know? And so it's like, okay, if the model is sneezing and her eyes are tearing up from that style of lighting, maybe it's time to switch it up and make it so that we can actually get the job done for the day.
Okay.
Nobody
Okay.
likes tears in a shot.
That's true. That's true. You know, this scene actually was done in Los Angeles. I'm in Malibu, and this was actually on a one-on-one photographic workshop with me. And you know, we lit this with a giant bounce, and the model was like not having it, right? And she was this really, really difficult, you know, Russian top model, and she was just like, you know, basically would not handle it. And it was so hot out, and the bounce was in her face, and finally, she was just like, we were talking and we were kind of like messing with the lights and stuff like that. And she's just like, finally, shut up and shoot me. And just starts yelling at us because you know what? It was like she was uncomfortable and we had the lights bouncing in her eyes and we're kind of like talking about the shot and stuff like that. And she's just like, I just want to be shot. I'm uncomfortable. I want to be done kind of thing. Yeah. But, you know, we created magic. We created, you know, an epic moment. But I understand, especially if you have bright eyes like this, light blue eyes, it can be a big challenge. You know, for a model. So I understand that, Asia. So, you know, so you have a lot of experience on both sides of the camera. So I'm really excited to have you aboard. And also, you guys out there, if you want to have a consult with Asia, a photographic strategy session on art direction, model posing, as well as lighting, please click on the link in the chat and we can set it up and just mention in the comment, you know, which photographic consultant you'd love to speak with. We're just offering this, you know, as a free opportunity this week. And I'd love for you guys to jump on and speak with one of our epic consultants and learn a little bit more and have a dedicated one-on-one strategy session with them. Because this is something that's a really great opportunity and it's for free. And it's just to help you. These are all experiences, epic images shot at our incredible workshops over the years. And, you know, from epic fashion stories in Chicago to LA to New York at the masterclass, all these incredible experiences. And we're here to master lighting, both studio and on location, to create some of the greatest content we've ever shot and to be able to shoot stuff at the level of Vogue and Vanity Fair and Harper's Bazaar. And I'm so excited for you guys to master that as well, because that's what we're here for. We're here to totally master your photography and to be able to take your photography to the highest level of your potential. So, all right. And then also, I'm just going to answer a few questions now. I know Francie Lucero, you asked, it'd be awesome to have you share your settings when you share a photograph, ISO, shutter speed, etc. You know what, Francie, generally, most of these images are shot at a pretty deep aperture. So a lot of times we're shooting at anywhere between 125th and 200th of a second, probably on average. And as far as shutter speed, and then the aperture is generally between f11 and f16. And ISO 100 on almost all the images that you see here, with the exception of the long exposures, which would be the black and white images shot where we drag the shutter about 1 full second for images like that. But you know, each scene, that is something that, you know, obviously every scenario has a certain lighting setting that's appropriate for it. The images that we were shooting in New York that we were showcasing were primarily shot at around 200th of a second, ISO 100 at around f16 for the majority of them, Francie, just so you know. All right, we have a lot of really great questions and comments. And I think that, you know, what you guys got to realize is that this is all about developing your photographic book, developing your photographic strategies, basically developing a quiver of all of your, you know, the arrows and the ammunition that you have to become the best version of yourself and to become the most successful photographer you can possibly be. And we're here to help you master location lighting, studio lighting, and to become a world-class top photographer at the highest level. Also, if you guys want to learn more about art direction and storyboarding, we're going to have an epic virtual photographic workshop coming up. And if you guys are interested in that, it's going to be a 6-hour intensive. It's only $12.95 to enroll in that. And for attending this webinar, you're going to get a $300 discount off of it. So it's something that's going to be really exceptional, and it's all about storytelling. So that's what I am. I'm a storyteller, and you guys are too. But that's the challenge, and that's something we're going to spend a full-scale intensive 6 hours on to master that. And if you guys are interested, definitely let us know, hit us up. And I cannot wait to see you guys master your photography at one of these experiences with us. Thanks so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you make your lighting strategies, master them, and make your epic photographic dreams a reality. Take care, guys.